watching closely the current happenings in South Africa, the xenophobic attack on other nationals, more especially African countries, you know, beating, chasing, and by extension, some killing. There is a sense in which one will begin to ask, what is the relationship between South Africa and other African countries? Because history led us to know that in the year 1948 to 1994, South Africa went through too many oppression from the apartheid regime. So African countries that are geographically closer to South Africa, like Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, Mozambique, and Botswana, they form a loose coalition that they call the frontline state. These countries provide their home, their cities as heavens and bases for the South Africa freedom fighters, the ANCs, that is the African National Congress, and the Pan-Africanist Congress. So they provided training facilities. These countries were training camps and bases, educational centers, and political headquarters for the freedom fighters, the NCs, and PACs in South Africa. They did this because they feel they are all one as Africans. And these African countries, we are able to absorb military retaliation from the South Africa Defense Force at that time. So countries like Angola, Mozambique, and Zambia suffered devastating cross-border raids, assassinations, and economic sabotage, by the then apartheid regime system. Yet these African countries refuse to withdraw their support to South Africa. And then today we see in recent times South Africa going at these people, asking the Mozambique to go back, asking those from Zambia to go back, asking those from Angola. And you will also know that military operation, for South Africa at that time, African nations provided tangible resources that were necessary for the liberation, of the movement. So, countries like Tanzania and Zambia, during the days of Cambridge, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania and Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia, their countries became the logistical backbone for the resistance. So Tanzania hosted the first ANC's primary training camp. They provided military training and facilities, for South Africa. More so the freedom fighters, the ANCs, and PACs. And also financially and by extension military training, Africa became a hub for South Africa at that time. So countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria, and Ethiopia, they provided millions of dollars to financially support the freedom fighters, those that were on exile, by helping them to buy equipment and to travel around the world. So Nelson Mandela, himself at that time, he received the first military training in Ethiopia and Morocco in 1962. And regional support to South Africa, we saw also where in 1963, when the OAU were established, they they gave tremendous support to South Africa and the Liberation Committee. So, but then in recent time, we see South Africa on the opposite side. So, what is happening? So, people keep asking who has bewitched Africa. So, Africa children are the witch for her. So, the OAU there in Dar es Salaam formed the Liberation Committee. Yeah. So this committee coordinated diplomatic, financial, and military assistance from all independent African states to the South Africa Liberation Movement. And we also saw where all African states, use their veto power in the United Nations, the Commonwealth, and other international forums to see the apartheid regime as crime against humanity. They championed the international sport boycott, and lobbied for a swift economic sanction. So there is a sense that Africa has always been there for South Africa, and when again we talk about direct public support, like in the case of Nigeria in the 1976, when the South African Relief Fund was formulated, Nigeria government set up a popularly known tax system that was called the apartheid tax, where government officials and everybody, Nigerian citizens, including students, contributed millions of dollars to fund scholarship, reliefs, and resources for South African exiles. Nigeria using its wealth as a political leverages. So, what is then happening with South Africa? Or has South Africa, swallow all of these goodies? So you will begin to know that African witch is the African children. There are always people who has bewitched Africa. So these are concerns, these are things. South Africa telling the world that they want to stand alone. So these are questions that we need to ask. These are questions that like-minded individuals will ponder around. Not too long, Africa went for the We Build Africa Summit, where Dangote, pledged his commitment to build the same oil refinery by capacity in between Kenya and Uganda, or either of these countries. And then we have this one happening. These are the issues that we need to address. How will Africa grow? How would Africa develop with this kind of stories, with this kind of happening? Asking your own brothers and sisters, those that once stood there by you, those that once say yes, we are for you, those that once saw your bad and turn it around to be good, those that once say yes, ready to support you, and today you are going against them, you are going at them, asking them to leave your country, all in the name of no job, things are hard, the economy is shaking. Come on, it's frustrating, seeing Africans and the like of South Africa behaving this way, that we see reasons to go back to the drawing board. There is a huge work to be done by the OAU, by the African organization. If South Africa is to receive sanctions, if South Africa is to be isolated, then it should be African countries once rally around the world, the UN, Commonwealth, to sanction South Africa apartheid regime government. It is as well possible today that the same sanction be levied against South Africa for going against other nationals. And on this trajectory, Africa will not grow. On this trajectory, Africa will not achieve Agenda 2063. On this trajectory, Africa will not achieve Agenda 2030.